come in here, and also Ambassador Prakash, your thoughts on it. In this case, the maiden visit or the standalone visit of President Donald Trump.
Well, you know, the state visit means the visiting head of state is feted and he's introduced to all those people who matter. And so the VIPs and the whole gentry which are there in the capital. So it's actually, and he's feted, he's introduced, and they come and greet him. So this is the kind of a
you see some business leaders also there.
Azim Premji there also,
yes, and a line of business leaders. So there is a wide representation
I
after
have
the
been
banquet.
banquets where even film stars were there.
What do you make of this banquet, Ambassador?
You know, Darbar Hall is grand.
Okay.
So the very fact that you invite a visiting dignitary to the Rashtrapati Bhavan and then to the Darbar Hall, which has a history where the world's leaders, dignitaries have been there, I think it is a gesture of respect that you show towards your visiting dignitary. Also, the idea is that, you know, after they have said hello to each other or greeted each other, they will be mingling freely for some time.
Your Vice President also exchanging pleasantries there. It seems to be a very free-flowing conversation amongst the cabinet and the senior union ministers amongst themselves.
Very much
as President Trump is now interacting with the captains of industry, there is a representation from the industry as well. Well, that also, in fact, adds more impetus.
Had already met them earlier at the business dialogue.
Yes, and their presence there, would you say, Ambassador Prakash, adds more impetus to the business component of the overall outcome?
Very much so. Where would you get an opportunity of interacting freely, informally, with the world's most powerful man? And you can clearly see that the businessman in him has come to the fore, and he's
spending more time
he's talking to, you know, and yes, because he knows many of the captains of trade and industry in India, and well, that is what he loves to do. So yes, it's a good, and that I think is Arun Puri, right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's Arun.
So and I think there will be some film stars also, as my colleague has mentioned, and let's see how he reacts to, because he talks of Hollywood to Bollywood, and so.
No, I don't see any this time, but
There'll be,
you know,
I
it
think, the
shows
pecking
the
order, there'll be
changing times. We have the president, our president, who otherwise was very stately in our, when we were in the government. But now he also moves around freely.
Okay.
Because I have attended previous banquets where the president sits at one place and we all go to meet him, but he doesn't move around.
So times
Also,
have
would you
changed.
agree that it's a bit of a personality thing?
Absolutely.
Because this president
that.
that way has made and successive presidents have made a conscious effort to not have that those regal,
that stately
which is in keeping with the times of the
Absolutely,
day. You know, so.
Well, this also has been the overall import. You spoke about personalities. I think there you have in one frame, President Ramnath Kovind, you have in one frame President Trump, then our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, then you also have First Lady. All of them,
Bharti,
yes, exchanging pleasantries, and yes, then I think there is more of a business communication that's transpiring between President Trump and the captains of industry.
These are some of the media personalities as well.
Yes, yes.
And you know, after this, they normally they are invited to have a juice or something, and they move from the pre-assigned positions and mingle. So because again, when they go inside to the dining table and dining room, it's a banquet room, that is. It's a long table where you can barely talk to each other because, you know,
that's right.
I think easily there'll be about 100 guests today, so the banquet table will have
what's the capacity of the banquet table?
They extend it.
They
extend it or shorten it, and recently they have extended the capacity. And imagine 100 people are sitting there at the banquet table. So this is the only time when the guests can mingle with each other, talk to each other, and I think it's a very good way to do that.
So, is there a pattern, a certain system to this entire situation that we are looking at? I mean, or
Yes, it's a drill.
Yes,
The
there's a
drill
drill to it.
the
Yeah.
drill is laid out very scrupulously.
Okay, okay.
It is because
Pending that personal touch. So a personal rapport, perhaps an effort or attempt made by President Trump that he knows them or he wants to know them.
No, he knows
Some of them, huh?
he in his press conference with and his conference with the businessmen, he said, "Well, I know many
Yeah,
of them,"
Okay.
and he was calling them, on a personal terms.
Okay.
There was on the television about 2 hours back they were covering it,
Right.
and he knew our captains
That's
of
music
industry.
maestro A.R. Rahman.
Yes.
There, well, one would wonder what are the notes that are being exchanged there between President Trump and A.R. Rahman, who has, he's not only a national icon, I mean, he is an internationally reputed
He has
Indian
won the
musician.
Oscar, you know,
Yes,
and so
internationally
he
reputed.
would have been introduced to him that he won the Oscar.
Absolutely, absolutely.
right.
Yes, please.
That would be okay.
Go ahead, sir, please.
No.
So, y-
I have something to say. I'll say momentarily.
Please say, please go ahead.
No. It is nice to see this lineup representing different segments of the society.
Absolutely.
And also, I must say that again that I have not seen from the visuals that I've seen of President Trump, seen him so relaxed. And he's not a person that I think I read and heard about who makes small talk. But he is taking at his wife. She is very much, again, very relaxed in her element. So I think it augurs well for the relationship because clearly he has taken to India, he has taken to Indians, he has taken to Indianness, I would say. So
We were also discussing, on the lighter note, the menu with Ambassador Mukherjee just a while back. It was a very elaborate laid down menu, and this time around keeping in view the American sensibilities, but the way Donald Trump has always shown
what
his
is it, a 7-course meal, or how
love
many
for
courses
India.
are
Well,
there?
we will not comment on it, Mark, because we don't have it in front of us, but going by the reports in various sections of media, it's also a part of the formality.
It is very
yes.
much so, but permit me to bring in another personality who is known for his love for his Indian food, and that was President Clinton and his daughter.
Okay.
They loved Indian food. They would, and first time, if I remember right, there was a Clinton platter which was introduced, and this time an Obama platter has been introduced by ITC Moria.
Okay.
Sorry.
Trump
platter,
platter,
yeah.
yes.
Sorry for.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Yes, please go on, sir.
Yeah, so, and Indian cuisine in the US is certainly occupying a pride of place, and I am afraid I don't know what the preferences are of President Trump, but I have been reading that, some of the choicest Indian food will be laid out at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. So, and now you
The
can see
president
that.
is being introduced to the United States side, and the
And
U.S.
President
that was
Trump
Wilbur
himself
Ross.
is introducing
Yes, that's right.
his team to our president and his spouse, the First Lady, Indian First Lady. And there is Ivanka.
Oh, she's dressed in a very gorgeous.
Very. And she has had a whale of a time. I mean, anywhere that she went from the visuals, it was quite evident that she was very relaxed, happy at Taj yesterday and at Hyderabad
The
House
family
today.
element with Trump's at least yesterday
Yeah.
at Taj.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, very much so.
No, and they are part of this American culture, which is fitness freak. The president, despite his age, he's so fit. And he's taking this walk, and his wife, both of them.
Yeah.
They are all, and his team also.
So there you have live visuals from Darbar Hall of Rashtrapati Bhavan. It's a ceremonial banquet hosted by our President Ramnath Kovind. Now, this is what you see right on your screen, lineup of the delegation accompanying President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump introducing each and every member of his power-packed delegation to our leadership, to our President Ramnath Kovind, as well as Vice President.
So the places that are at the table, they are based on the Indian side and the U.S. side, or do they intermingle?
One Indian,
one Indian, one
US.
Okay.
And the idea is also to have people that are dignitaries that they'll try to match either across each other or next to each other, people of the same status or the same designation, so that they can
have some sort of conversation.
have
yes.
more
Yes,
time
interaction.
to informally converse with each other. And right in the middle, of course, there will be the president and our prime minister and the vice president and the visiting head of state and his spouse. It's a very good format, and for 1 hour or so, 1 hour 15 minutes, they will be able to talk. There will also be banquet speeches as they go in, which are read out, and the copies are made, which are a bit of a memento of on very nice paper in Hindi and English of the banquet speeches, which will be circulated before, and then that is read out. It's
so
a very nice ceremony.
Speeches are also documented.
Sorry?
Banquet speeches are also documented, and they are also form a component as far as the diplomacy part, the outcome.
Yes.
I mean, the concrete part of that.
It is a very much an important part, because a lot of time and effort goes into a banquet speech, and that's also, as a kind of a wrap-up. It's a kind of a thank you. It captures the sentiment that the guest and the host wants to reflect. So I think it does constitute an important part of the visit. And the entire thing, as Ambassador Sharma was mentioning, has been very carefully done. The bagpipers come in. Their music is pretty interesting, pretty soothing, and the general. Oh, this is also a change, because normally the heads of state did not sit, but again this has been an opportunity.
So this is all in the Darbar Hall.
All in the Darbar Hall. And now you will see I think we will see a lot of bonhomie. Oh, I see. The other guests have started going in. So
first you had the drawing room format, and now you have a Darbar Hall format, if that's the nomenclature one can use here. Is it also departure from the tradition? Yes,
no,
But what I see is the top dignitaries are seated till the others get seated in the banquet hall. So they wait, and then they take that, after everyone is seated, then they walk into the banquet hall and they take their places, which are the pride of place, obviously.
Well paced and well timed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, First Lady, President Trump and President Kovind, accompanied by their respective spouses there, having an informal tete-a-tete there. But one would wonder what would be discussed.
We will soon be listening to the banquet speeches, so I suppose we will get to know.
We have distinguished panelists in our studios, former ambassadors who would in fact like to share their experiences, and what we would really like to know, the viewers would want to know from you and you, sir. How different has this been as an experience in Rashtrapati Bhavan? How different has this banquet so far turned out to be?
Well, it's the way it has been laid out is spectacular. It's the way because in the past the banquets which I have attended, I think that climbing the stairs was not part of it. They used to go around and then move straight into the Darbar Hall. So that time was less. But this has been done in full pomp, So there is a certain, and then Trump loves pomp, and he loves spectacle.
Right.
And you see, that's why he it's like he's in his element. I mean, if it one can put it like that. He's so happy. And he likes superlatives. So, so you have whenever he speaks, he speaks in that, manner. So
but
all
was this planned by us?
Sorry?
This was planned by us?
Which one?
The entire event, the lineup, or it's discussed, the notes are exchanged?
No. The notes, we will decide who we invite. That is our prerogative. We invite the host to give their list. So there's the official delegation, which is always included. Plus, either from Washington or from Delhi, we will, from the embassy of the US, will get their invitees. We indicate how many people should they give, how many names should they give. So that's how it is done. And of course,
seating arrangements, sir? I mean, that's decided
in the order of seniority.
No.
But you will see that
you said that you match people according to
to an extent possible, because their official delegation.
And that's done in discussion with the US embassy?
No, not necessarily. Only the official delegation, because I think our ambassador and their ambassador will be seated next to each other. They have 12, they have 3 ministers, so if their counterparts are there, they'll be seated to each other. And then on the Indian side, there's obviously a very long list. They don't have the American counterpart, just as when we go to White House and there's a banquet, the American side is much bigger and the Indian delegation will be of 15 to 20. So, but just in addition to what Ambassador Sharma mentioned, what I found very nice was the atmosphere at Darbar Hall. It was relaxed, there was a sense of bonhomie, and which I think reflects the success of the visit, because now the entire proceedings are behind. It
satisfactory.
Yes.
On a satisfactory note.
You're very conservative, I must say that.
Okay, super successful.
Exhilarating note.
Okay, I'm a journalist here. My job is to ask questions.
Yes,
so
yes.
After the satisfactory, there was a question mark, or super successful followed by.
No, I think it has been an exceptionally successful visit, and I would. That's how I would
Exceeded all expectations.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's been a wonderful visit.
Right. But you know, the talk is about this trade deal, and you know, our Commerce and Industry Minister has spoken to the press, and he said that you know, we're moving towards an FTA, and there's a limited stage or something. He has said that.
I'm so happy that he said that, because
but
that's what
the point is that you know, that it's very early stages, isn't it? But and the Prime Minister and the US President have given approval for whatever has been discussed thus far. You know, what are we actually, this at the end of the day, he also spoke about the $5 trillion economy. It's very necessary that, you know, India and the US work together. The Prime Minister has consulted with almost every ministry. He's consulted with the senior bureaucracy on how to achieve the $5 trillion economy. All this has been, you know, notified and put into the negotiations and the discussions with the US. So it's a very serious matter that is being discussed here. How do you view this? I think this is something that, you know, is probably not highlighted enough because we don't know enough. But this, I think, is a substantive issue that's come out of this meeting.
The trade.
The trade aspect.
Very much so. A, between India and the US, and B, for India itself, because right now our economy is 2.7 trillion odd, I mean, give and take a bit, and I think our trade is about 2.7 trillion and 800 billion. So that means about 33% of roughly of our GDP. Trade is about 33% of our GDP. But it has to be bigger, because the constraint so far has been that our own market is so large that we do not focus so much on international trade. But as we move towards being a $5 trillion economy and then a $10 trillion economy, we have to expand our manufacturing base, we have to expand our exports, imports. And who better than the US, with whom this year we will have, or last 2019 we had about $150 billion in trade, and we are looking at $250 billion by 2025.
Right.
So obviously we need to, both sides need to create an environment where we can trade.
Here's our President is speaking.
Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, and First Lady, Madam Melania Trump, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and namaste. It is an honor to welcome you, Mr. President, and your esteemed delegation on our first state visit to India. The past 2 days have been very special for us. Our people have rejoiced in the warmth of our friendship and the glow of our ties. Mr. President, our relations are deep and abiding. Today, the ever-expanding orbit of our partnership encompasses the map of every single human endeavor. As economic partners, we have come a long way. The trading journey that began in the early 19th century with ice from New England being offloaded on the shores of Madras has today blossomed into a robust economic partnership laced with expanding trade, innovative investments, and new age technology. As the world's largest democracies, we are deeply connected with each other through our people and their aspirations. The bedrock of Indian and American society has been hard-working, middle-class families, and that is what makes us understand each other instinctively. Over 4 million people of Indian origin have made America their home. They are a living bridge between the American dream and our vision of New India. Our bilateral canvas has many folds, but none more if we sit down to savor the fruits of that venture. Indian produced red delicious American apples, we will once again be reminded of the depth of our engagement and as much the prospects of our future endeavors. On that delectable note, Mr. President, I wish you and First Lady greater health and happiness. I wish the American people everlasting peace and prosperity, and I wish our friendship ever greater warmth and affection. Thank you.
Your Excellency, I'll be coming in. Your Excellency.
I don't need that, thank you. Interesting that I feel so comfortable being with you, Mr. President, and my dear friend, the Prime Minister. We had such a tremendous 2 days, and I'm not even including the 18 hours that we flew. And that wasn't even bad, because I was coming to a place that I like very much. And you know, I've been to India before. Not as president, but I've been to India before, and we'll be back again, hopefully many times. But I feel so comfortable. I said, I don't want to read a speech. They gave me a speech. I said, isn't that wonderful? I'll tell you what it said. I love India. I respect India. The First Lady feels the same exact way. The First Lady and I talked about it, and this was a trip that we very much look forward to do. You know, I called up the Prime Minister. I said, do you mind if I make it till after the election? And he was not happy. He did not like that idea, because they had already put the signs up, right? He didn't want to be taking signs down. But we had a tremendous 2 days, as beautiful as I've ever had in my life, and I think I can speak for our great First Lady. We really had something special. Now, we've done a lot of business. There's a lot of orders taking place. There's a lot of things that are going to be purchased both ways, from India and from us. And we're going to have a tremendous relationship, a long and great relationship. We are right now, we were saying today, we are right now better friends than we ever were in the history of our countries. And that all has to do with relationship. And it's also nice to include you in that relationship, because I've known your Prime Minister now for a long time. We had a lot of fun in Texas, and it was an amazing day. They're still talking about that in the United States, and it was fantastic. But I must say that, you know, Texas is a big place, and it's hard to beat Texas. But what we saw yesterday with 125,000 people, and what they don't say, they do say it was full, it was packed. What they don't say is there were thousands of people outside trying to get in. And then we drove from place to place, and every place we drove, there were thousands, tens of thousands of people on the sidewalks waving and saying hello. I just want to thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister, and your families. But this was a very, very special 2 days. And we'll be leaving at the end of this great banquet, this great meal. But I will say that we will miss you all, and we will be back. We will be back. Thank you very much. It's a great honor. Thank you.
So, well, he closes it by saying, we will be back. That's Donald Trump, the President of United States of America. Well, this was not scripted. It actually came from his heart, repeatedly calling these 2 days tremendously successful, quote unquote. And he also mentioned Ambassador Sharma and Ambassador Prakash. I love India. I respect India. And in that very friendly banter, he also
I think that's what he said.
Yes, he said, I think that I asked Prime Minister, can I also contest elections here? And he wasn't really happy with that idea. And on a serious note, he also summed it up by saying that we are better friends than ever. Ambassador Prakash, your thoughts?
Well, I do not recall, and as a spokesperson, I had the good fortune of attending a number of banquets, maybe 50-odd banquets that I attended. I have never seen this kind of delightful warmth and informality, where a visiting dignitary said, I do not need my written speech. I don't know whether he had it or not. And he
He
spoke.
said they gave me, but then I said I know what I
Yes,
have to
as
say.
you very rightly said, he spoke from the heart.
Yes.
He said what he is closest to his heart, the kind of the respect for India, which he mentioned, his affection for India, his affection for Prime Minister Modi, which is heartily reciprocated, his interest in trade, the trade word again came in, and he certainly mentioned that relationship has never been better, and we will be back.
Yes.
Is very interesting because he is signaling that he has a tremendous confidence that he will be back as the president of the US. But overall, I think it was very endearing, and this is very even by the American standards of informality, it went beyond that. So I think that it shows how relaxed, how comfortable he is with his Indian interlocutors, and it's a good for the relationship.
So,
Well, he's immensely pleased being here.
yes.
And actually, when I must say that when earlier we were watching, somehow the other thought came to me that like Obama, would he come again? And he said it.
He said
So
we'll be back.
that was the indication of the bond that has been established today. Last 2 days. He's he bonds very well, and he is a very different personality. He's not like in the mold of his predecessors, because in the US, he does things on his own, like the way he doesn't read the banquet speech, or yesterday in Motera, he spoke on his, it was ad lib.
Okay.
So he speaks what he feels about it. He's very articulate in that sense, and still he manages to capture the essence of where he feels he has reached after coming to India. So that is a tremendous thing, Aman is using his words again. I mean, he inspires us to be
There's a lot of food
superlatives,
for
to use
thoughts.
superlatives.
I think
Lot of food for thoughts.
what we'll do is we take a short
Yes.
break, and then when we come back, we'll put all this into context with our guests in the studio. So do stay with us. We need to take a short break now.
But
Bob, you start. I know.
So welcome back, and yes, let's turn to our guests once again and put into context the importance of the banquet speech. And the US President, as we know, didn't use a script here. He spoke from the heart, as we were discussing. And he first also mentioned that, you know, he's come to India many times before, but not as president. So it's not his first visit to India. And earlier also in our discussions, we realized that he was familiar with many of the business community in India because he obviously has, you know, met them in a business capacity or a professional capacity before he became US President. So he's familiar with India, and he has been mesmerized by whatever has happened as, you know, at the official and at the state level, and that he takes away a very warm feeling. He has mentioned that several times. He and his wife are overwhelmed by by the reception that they got, and he talked, of course, about the numbers, which is extremely important because that, you know, he had been mentioning before he came to from the United States that we are going to expect millions of people. He seems satisfied. He seems overwhelmed because, you know, people were lining the streets right from the time that his plane landed to the Motera Stadium, and there he saw 125,000 people. He said that, you know, the media is still talking about it in the United States, but people, what they are not mentioning is that the people were outside the stadium too as well. And of course, I mean, if we talk about the millions of people who were watching on television, then that definitely adds up to several million people. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, so, you know, in terms of size and scale, that's how we were discussing this visit to start with. This has fulfilled that, you know, that concept of grandeur in terms of scale, would you say?
Without any hesitation. In fact, it has exceeded all parameters that I had, the mental parameters that I had set for myself. You know, one has not seen this kind of a spectacular welcome that has been accorded to any visiting dignitary, and we have had several visiting dignitaries. But it's not the end mark, because now what we will see, there have been some iconic pictures taken at Taj Mahal, at Ahmedabad, Sabarmati Ashram, some of the visuals, some of the footage. They will become a part of the electoral campaign because, you know...
And this as well. And this as well, while holding hands, numerous occasions.
Sure, very much so. So, you know, so we will see India being beamed into living rooms and board rooms of in the US again and again and again. So right. I guess it helps the image of India. Plus, I think, and President Trump also mentioned that as India as a tourist destination.
Yes.
I think, again, these visuals will be carried all over. So, by every stretch of imagination, it has been a wonderful welcome to him. He has thoroughly absorbed it, enjoyed it. And as he said, he is not likely to forget it in a hurry. And that was perhaps one of the purposes of laying it out for him.
Ambassador Shilkar Sharma, the showcasing of India, you know, not only our iconic monuments, but you know, today's the visual treat that we saw in terms of lighting and everything, you know, which I think probably for the first time available, you know, on camera for people, because you all have had the privilege of being at banquets, but not all of us. But, you know, we got to see it. And that itself sends the message that, you know, India is really a country that has class, you know, that has the class that perhaps people didn't associate with us.
And the
for the international audience,
and the sheer majesty of the people, you know, this democratic polity, it is able to put together this kind of a show. You know, it speaks volumes about India, and he appreciates it. There is not a slightest you know, discordant note. You know, all the right notes he's making. So that shows he's overwhelmed, as you know, as it were.
Right. In fact, we will continue this discussion. We're also going to talk a bit about the
activities of Melania Trump.
Yes, before that, the portions of that brief speech made by our president just a while back, as well as President Donald Trump. But then let's also take a quick look at what happened in the afternoon today. Besides the business component, the softer side of the diplomacy was also at fore. We're talking about the First Lady. Not much is known about her in the sense in terms of media interaction. I can see Ambassador Prakash smiling at us. But today, you know, when she visited those schools, the Sarvodaya Vidyalaya, she spent some time there, quite a bit of time there. She interacted freely with the kids, the tiny tots there. She was perfectly at ease. She spent some time. She took part in those activities, especially the happiness curriculum. And after that, she also spoke about this beautiful experience. Take a look.
US First Lady Melania Trump attended a happiness class at a South Delhi school. Excited students dressed in traditional attire greeted Melania as she arrived at the Sarvodaya Co-Educational Senior Secondary School. A band welcomed the First Lady playing bagpipes. The children welcomed the First Lady applying tika. The First Lady witnessed cultural performances by the students and was overwhelmed by their enthusiasm. The school was decked up with floral garlands and motifs to welcome the US First Lady. First Lady thanked all educators for setting a positive example for educators.
As I walked around, I was able to see how the concept exists in curriculum, in the leadership of the teachers, and in the spirit of enthusiasm of the students. Happiness curriculum. It is very inspiring to me that the students here begin each day by participating mindfulness. I also visited one of your primary school reading classrooms and learned about the reading program. Encouraging students to explore books of their own interest is very effective and increases reading habits and life skills.
First Lady also complimented the students of the school who gifted Madhubani paintings to her. Later, she interacted with students at the school and witnessed various activities conducted as part of the happiness curriculum. She took a tour of the school and visited a reading room as well as an activity room for kindergarten students. She also saw a yoga session and interacted with the students. Jyotika Grover's report, DD India.
So there we saw the US First Lady Melania Trump interacting with children in the Sarvodaya Vidyalaya in Moti Bagh, and she certainly had a very good time. One can clearly see that, and the children obviously enjoyed that moment. They will remember it for the rest of their lives. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, what kind of signal is this in terms of diplomacy these days, that activities for the First Lady, I mean, how do they fit in with the scheme of things in terms of the overall agenda of a visit?
The First Ladies have historically played an important role in almost every country. And the American First Ladies in particular have been taking up social causes, charitable causes, health issues, educational, women welfare. And they have, because of their stature and because of their interest and involvement, they have had an impact on the society. So it is indeed befitting that in this short time that she had in Delhi, for me, the most important thing was that she was taken to the happiness school. And that is the need of the hour. Today, because of the lifestyle, because of the competitive environment that the kids are in, because of the digital space that the kids spend so much of time in, the stress levels among the kids is huge. Mental health issues are huge. So what is very important is, I mean, look at the kids. They are carrying a bag, a satchel full of books with their back bent. So it is very important to introduce activities and features which enable the kids to relax, be happy. And here I think experiments are being carried out all over the world. So we are also, this was a pilot project that we have introduced, and we invited her to go there. She liked it. And I think it's about time that the best practices about the happiness for kids and or for the well-being of the child are studied and replicated. So that way it was, I think, a very good thing. It was something that she enjoyed. She had a bindi on her forehead. Yes. She is a very elegant person.
She looked at home, actually.
She looked at home. And then I wish we can show the footage to your viewers of this little kid who broke into a spontaneous dance, and I think he gave the other girls who were dancing very well run for their money. I mean, he danced for a good 15 minutes, and the First Lady was absolutely smitten by this little kid, turned to him, clapped. So it was, I think she was quite happy to see the energy, the kids, the atmosphere. This is a practice that is followed worldwide, and it was followed quite effectively here.
Okay, we will talk about it, and if possible we are going to play out those visuals of First Lady at that school earlier in the afternoon. But before that, let's also quickly dip in and quickly take a look at the business transacted today between the two countries. Remember, both leaders made it amply clear that there has been a forward movement at the ministerial level, and that is something which will continue in near future as well, as far as cooperation on regional matters and bilateral issues are concerned, vis-a-vis the pacts that have been signed. We have a comprehensive report. Please take a look.
Before the arrival of President Trump, discussion on trade and agreement between both countries had begun. Tuesday's joint press statement by the two leaders made it clear that there has been forward movement at the ministerial level, and in the future this will yield good results.
पिछले 3 वर्षों में हमारे द्विपक्षीय व्यापार में डबल डिजिट ग्रोथ हुई है। जहां तक बायलैटरल ट्रेड का सवाल है, हमारे कॉमर्स मिनिस्टर्स के बीच सकारात्मक वार्ताएं हुई हैं। राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप और मैं आज सहमत हुए हैं कि हमारे कॉमर्स मिनिस्टर के बीच जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग बनी है उसे हमारी टीम्स लीगल रूप दें।
Another major focus of my discussions with Prime Minister Modi is forging bilateral economic relationships that is fair and reciprocal. Our teams have made tremendous progress on a comprehensive trade agreement, and I'm optimistic we can reach a deal that will be of great importance to both countries.
3 MOUs were signed between India and America, including one letter of oil cooperation to boost energy ties. This letter of cooperation was signed between Indian Oil Corporation Limited and Exxon Mobil India LNG Limited and Chart Industries Inc. US. The move can significantly increase the use of the clean fuel in the country and deepen the rapidly growing US-India energy ties. Both countries signed an MOU in the area of mental health. Apart from this, an MOU for the safety of medical products was inked as well. The bilateral discussions stressed on people-to-people contact. PM Modi also said that the most important foundation of the special relationship between India and US is people-to-people contact. He further said that Indian diaspora has played a key role in strengthening the US economy.
USA में इंडियन डायस्पोरा भारत के ये एम्बेसडर्स न सिर्फ अपने टैलेंट और परिश्रम से यूएसए की अर्थव्यवस्था में कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं, बल्कि अपने डेमोक्रेटिक वैल्यूज और समृद्ध कल्चर से अमेरिकन सोसाइटी को भी एनरिच कर रहे हैं.
Prime Minister further said that India and US is also establishing new initiatives of partnership, innovation and enterprise emerging technologies of the 21st century. Both leaders also dwelt upon a whole host of issues during talks, including 5G telecom technology, situation in the Indo-Pacific, smuggling of drugs, organized crime, cybersecurity, maritime security. Both sides also agreed on having a new mechanism to tackle serious concerns like drug trafficking, narco-terrorism, and other organized crimes. The U.S. International Development Finance Corporation will be establishing a permanent presence in India, and America is committed to work with India to improve development. It was clear from the bilateral talks that Indo-US relations are said to be one of the most important partnerships of the 21st century. With Sudhakar Das, Bureau Report, DD News.
आप देख रहे हैं डीडी नेशनल, इंडिया का अपना चैनल।